there. Let's do the housekeeping first. So let me see if I can see myself. And then hopefully also you can hear me, because of course I have the voices off, or the sounds. Okay, here we go. And then I'll add the link to the chat there. And it's now pinned. Okie dokie. Hey Heidi. Now I think we are all set. The link is posted and I can at least see myself, and hopefully you can hear me. This is something we are making today, or something like it. I actually thought about changing the color scheme a little bit to make it more just rustic colors, but let's see how it goes. Oh, by the way, I have no idea what the stars thingies are. Kiitos Heidi, hyvä et kuuluu ja näkyy. I must have pressed something I shouldn't have when I pushed go live, but just don't mind about those star whatever they are. I'm mainly keeping this live in English, but if you want to ask anything in Finnish, of course you can do that. And let me just say that in Finnish, and then we'll actually start. Eli heipä hei, hyvää iltaa. Jos on suomenkielisiä paikalla, niin pääasiallisesti höpöttelen tällä kertaa tosiaan englanniksi, mutta aina, kuten aina liveissä, niin pystyy kysymään myös suomeksi, niin vastaan sitten kahdella kielellä. Anteeksi. Okay, let's get started. Let me get my chair up a little bit better. Sorry about the noise. And then let's start. So here's the sample project, and here's the base that I'm then creating something similar. Using the same steps, but let's see how different or similar it then turns out. This project was inspired by a former process video I did back in the day, because it's always a little bit kind of pondering what I would do, and then I realized that maybe I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, and I used one of my process videos as a jumping off point. So this is going to be gesso in a couple of ways, but also just building a composition and such. So the first thing I'm doing, this is a piece of thick cardboard that I'm coating with white gesso. This is heavy body gesso, so it's a little bit thicker. And I'm first trying to go through the whole piece once, and then add a little bit extra, here we go, extra along the center, and make sure it's still, hi Anne, hi Holly, make sure it's still wet, so when I add the piece of paper it will stick. Of course I could use any kind of actual adhesive here, but with gesso I get two birds with one stone, so I'm priming and adhering at the same time. Hi Louise! in the materials list, I mentioned these papers, just papers with a bold or contrasting pattern, because the idea was that it was this minty and white stripe, but when I add a layer of gesso on top, you just kind of see the stripes. So this is a great way if you like a pattern but not like the color, for example. Hi Josephine! So kind of to get to use those papers, because then you add a layer of gesso on top and then you're good to go to add any color you want on top. As you notice, I previously cut these paper pieces and torn the other edge so that they will fit on top. But if you want two papers to be kind of really secured, or you're a little bit hesitant if something is a little bit rising or not as fit as you would like to have it, of course you can use double-sided adhesive at the base or then gel medium. But this is just a way to do it with just one medium. Just heavy body gesso. And of course, if you want the pattern to be somewhat visible, then you need either white gesso or clear one. But just to be on the safe side, try the clear gesso first before doing this, because I've owned one clear gesso that actually wouldn't adhere anything, because I'm not sure how it was constructed, but still it was just a great primer but not so great as an adhesive. So now a quick dry. This gesso that I'm using is acrylic based, so it dries quickly, but I wanted the layer to be dried because I'm adding a stencil on top, and if this layer underneath would be still wet, when I put the stencil on top and take it away, it might tear the paper along, so it's easier if the bottom layer is somewhat dry at least. And the idea, of course, is to kind of hinder the contrast and not completely turn the paper white, because then you could just use white paper. So the thickness, you might want to bear that in mind, so it's not totally white, the whole thing. Hey Sirja! So now the stencil on top, and I'm continuing with gesso. As I said, this is heavy body, so I'm able to make a dimensional layer just with this as well. You could use modeling paste, of course, but this is kind of the idea here, is to use one medium in multiple ways. So just the stencil and the gesso through another layer. I have a bucket of water here underneath the table, so I'm just tossing the stencil there and we'll clean it afterwards. But if you have the possibility, if you can, of course you can first just clean the stencil, because if there's too thick of a layer of gesso or any kind of medium in the stencil, then it might get blocked that way. Then I'm pushing this one in. This is just cardstock cut with a Sizzix big die, so the thicker ones, and I'm pushing it here, again using gesso as kind of an adhesive, so no other medium, just the gesso here. And this is light enough to be used this way. If this would be some kind of metal embellishment, for example, then something sturdier would be needed, but with a just paper or cardstock embellishment, that will work. Let me put this aside for a while to dry a little bit, and then let's move on to some embellishments, because I'm going to dry the gesso with the heat tool, using that as kind of a way to texture it. But just to give that contrast to you, I'm trying to keep that air drying. So let me see if I can get the camera somewhat in the correct place. Okay, just a minute. I'm guessing this way. There. There's the thing I'm going to do a little bit later. And then hopefully here is the layer I'm doing now. Just to show you that a little bit advanced. But now let's paint this bottle. I cut it a little bit shorter. I'm not sure if you noticed, because it's a little bit long if I'm trying to imitate this composition. So I just took my scissors and cut it, because this one is done using silicone mold, and I've done it using just hot glue. Sorry. Moi Päivi! So now a paint. I could use gesso to prime this one first and then add acrylic on top, but acrylic will stick to this plasticky surface of this bottle as it is, so I don't have to use gesso, but I could, especially if I would love to do some kind of dry brushing thing, for example. Let's move that aside as well, because of course I can't use the heat tool to dry that, because then the hot glue will melt, and I don't have a bottle, I have a puddle. So then let's prepare these two. If I could lift them up. So these are acetate, I think they're called, little embellishments. And while they work fine on a white kind of background, but if you add some kind of darker surface underneath, they come a little bit muddled. You can't really tell what they are. So this could be paint as well, but now that we have the gesso jar here open, one way to make these visible on top of any surface is just to add a layer of white gesso in the back. Again, just using white acrylic paint would do nicely as well, but as we're using gesso, that's handy. Moi Tanya! This is what we are doing, or something like that. We now have the background there, waiting a little bit, letting it air dry for a while, and I'm doing embellishments, and the same in Finnish. Eli tuon tyyppistä juttua ollaan täällä tekemässä, pääasiallisesti tosiaan englanti tällä kertaa kielenä. Tausta on tuossa vähän kuivumassa ja tämmöisiä koristeita tällä hetkellä nyt, että saa tausta hetken aikaa ilmakuivua, niin täällä touhotan. So now there's gesso on this side as well. That wasn't my intention. Luckily I can just wipe it off. Here we go. Those can dry there for a while. Then let's do this bit. Let me see, maybe these two. These are chipboard shapes from A.B.Studio. I mainly see these as lavenders, but I was thinking maybe turning these into stalks of wheat, no grain. What are they? This time, just by changing color, because here I used purple, and I'm thinking maybe I used just kind of an orangey, warm yellow for these. But let's see. Maybe I'll follow the color scheme. What do you think? To make it colorful as this one, or a little bit more just vintagey tea tones style version? Just using a bit of cotton twine and just stringing these two together, making a little bundle out of those. Like so. And then let's gesso these ones too. I guess those are ready for another layer. While they are okay, just one layer, but I'm thinking I'm putting another one there just to make it a little bit more solid. If you want to avoid the brush strokes, use a really soft, fluffy brush, or then sponge the medium on top, or then, as this is heavy body gesso, use a thinner version so it then kind of self-levels. Not that you can see the brush strokes that much on the other side, but still, if you're not liking them, then that's a way. Okay, sorry about that. That was my stomach keeping a funny noise. Here we go. Then one layer of gesso first for these. Why I'm adding gesso on here is, well, the surface is a little bit grayish, so by making it white I can then use any color and it will look vivid, let's say. The other one is that these are chipboard, really kind of soft, absorbing material, so when I add the colorant on top, it will absorb a lot if it's not acrylic, if it's watercolor, which I'm using. Then by adding a primer layer, I kind of seal the surface and I'm not having to use that much color to get a good coverage. And then when I have one layer here, then I'll add extra to the stems. So there's going to be a bulky layer here. And then I'm bringing in the heat tool and I'm boiling this one to give it more texture. So while the background is air drying and I'm trying to give that kind of a smooth look there, or a crisp image, here I'm then grabbing my heat tool and using that to boil the gesso to get it a little bit puffed like here. Let's move these a little bit to the side so I'm not then heating those as well. there. I'm not sure. Well, it should show quite drastically that there's no bubbles. There's air inside them, so when I put pressure on top, they will collapse. But it's a fun way to add texture if you want that. And here, I'm trying not to heat this one, just to dry it a little. So hopefully these won't bubble. Quick dry here, so they are looking crisp with the edge, whereas here I boiled them so they are bubbly. Now let's see, I think we need another layer here to get it a little bit more opaque. Even though the paint is opaque, then the hot glue, which I made the bottle with, molded, so it's a little bit tricky surface. So just to have it more like a solid color, I'll add quickly another layer on top, and then let it dry again. No heat tool with that. Then it should be watercolor time with several elements. Let's get the watercolors. Come on. This could be distress ink, this could be even acrylics. Just wanted one supply that would have all the colors, so I chose a watercolor palette. It could be water-soluble crayons as well. So I'm thinking you didn't reply if I should make this with kind of tea-tony things or following that. Luckily the background is a little bit tea-tony anyway. Well, there's green, but let's make it more earthy this time. See what happens. So I'm just wiggling some watercolor here, making kind of a big blob using that, and mixing a couple of different colors there to give it a nice varying look. So it's just not one but several tones there. And then something I usually do, just splashes. A nice way to break the gap between the treated and untreated areas. So there's some splashes of the same colors that are in there. Like so. Then let's put these aside just for a while. And then here I made them lavender, but now I decided to try to make them more like, I think they're called stalks of wheat or rye. So just using the watercolors. And as they are a little bit textured, because I boiled the gesso, it then pools in other places and kind of highlights the texture. Like so. Those aside. There. And then the leaf. I was thinking this vibrant orange for that. Luckily I have 2 of these, so if I mess this one up with orange, when I'm then starting to build the actual thing, then I can make another one. If you're wondering why there's this grid pattern, it's from another project where I was stamping on top of double-sided adhesive sheet, and these were kind of the leftovers, so I'm then using them here. Let me move the watercolors aside for a little bit. Then let's do the mushroom, which is here, and then I'll continue with a little bit of texture. Not that it's that visible anymore here in the ready piece, but let's see. So I'm adding a piece of double-sided adhesive to a piece of cardstock. Let's get rid of the extra already, so it's not sticking everywhere. So, this is a printable, this mushroom bit, but of course you could use stamped image as well. I just happened to have these and wanted a bigger mushroom in my project, so then this was handy. And why I'm mounting it on top of cardstock, because I print these to just regular paper, so they are a little bit too flimsy on their own, and I need to make them a little bit sturdier for layering. So that's why I'm using the double-sided adhesive to add the printable on top of cardstock to make it kind of a die-cut element in that way. Just using scissors to cut the mushroom loose. Just a little bit there. We have it. Then I have the ink. Let's see if the elements are dry. And these ones seem to be, this one is all curled up, but not to worry, it will be fine a little bit later. Let me show each of these. So now we have the background somewhat dried and several elements. Let's ink the edges. One more gessoed layer, and then we can make the composition, or actually we can make the composition while gessoing. in a way. Just going over the edges a little bit with my favorite vintage photo ink. Not this one. Just a touch to the surface as well, trying to highlight the texture that way. Oops, almost broke that one. Like so. Then we have the bottle here. Those aside. I'll put the label to the bottle. So this is just double-sided adhesive sheet with a piece of cotton on top, and then I stamped it with a PaperArtsy stamp. This is actually from a previous Facebook Live where I first made these, but just kind of adding a little label to the bottle there. So the mushroom is going to be around here. I'm using washi tape, foam tape, sorry. Babbling all sorts of stuff now. So let's first add some foam tape here. It's a little bit stripy on the back side, but that doesn't matter. So it will be here. But now it's kind of floating, and I'm not sure if you can see that there's some texture here, binding it, kind of grounding it. And it's made using just gauze and old lace. But these are quite sturdy here, and this is really fluffy. But I'm guessing you can kind of think what to use, as the topic is kind of gesso here, to make it sturdy. So now thinking, do I want to turn my fingers white? And I guess I want to do that, as that is probably the easiest way. So it's just kind of turning the gauze, making more rigid and making it kind of this surface using gesso. Of course you can't, it's, how do I say it? It's just these little details. If you would try to make a whole big area, I would recommend some kind of a fabric medium. But again, another way to be using this medium, then it's to, you can use it to so much more than just kind of priming. So again, I'm just using the gesso to adhere this light vintage lace and some gauze or what do you call it? I think it's gauze to the project. And when I add the gesso, especially to the really light gauze, and I can lift it up, make it dimensional, and if I have soaked it in gesso kind of enough, then it turns sturdy, and I can make these really dimensional things using the fabric. So I can build a little textured ground kind of thing. Now I can just put the lid to the gesso jar. Of course I would now want to add a little bit of color here, but I'm not wanting to boil the gesso here, so that's why I'm not now using the heat tool, so it will be white for now. Let's see if it dries enough in air during the last part of this live. Then let's add this skeleton leaf here. It's just kind of a hint of a layer because it's so delicate, almost kind of a ghostly thing. Now I'm adding a little bit of craft glue there just to make sure it will stay put, because everything else is just kind of coming on top. So I want that to be really in there. Now where's my lady? There she is. And then we need these and the bottle. Let's add the bottle there first. I'm using just craft glue this time, but of course you could use heavy body gel medium as well to adhere the layers, especially if you're using really heavy embellishments, then it's easier to use those. Then this one, I'm guessing I'm creating a little pedestal or something there with foam tape. I'm adding a little bit of craft glue there as well to make it really sturdy. And I'm able to use this. It's not pretty looking at the moment, but I know that I'm going to put something on top anyway. So I can put just that white blob there for now. Then these ones. Then she will be here. Will I even need the stick this time? Well, it looks fun. Let's add the stick, but let's first try to cover that one with the leaf. Or do we put the leaf underneath? Come on. I'm thinking I'm wanting it this way. But now everything is moving. Here we go. And then this one on top. And then she will be here, so everything is hidden. Yay! Oh, just a little bit more. Here we go. Now, what do we need? We need the wire. That at least is missing, and then we still have our little mushrooms here. Moi moi Anne! Hey Tiina! So this is just a length of wire. Basic wire. But I wanted something to kind of gather the attention to a certain area, so I'm making a little circle or wreath or whatever you want to call it, just using this one. Just twisting the ends a little bit and then making it a little bit off center so it looks more organic. Now that everything is still moving, I can wiggle it underneath there and make it underneath there. Yes, I'm thinking that's good. Then still these. Come on. I'm thinking these might be fun here. just a little bit shorter, so just I'm like the queen in the Alice in Wonderland, off with their heads. It's just, you can't get too attached, let's say, to the embellishments, because in the end it's all about the composition and how things work together. So if you need to cut something or ditch something, then that's something you need to do. I'm thinking I'm adding that little twig there as well, as I now have it at hand. So oh, it's really pouring outside. I hear the rain really falling, so it's really autumn weather here. Like so. Is this jar going to be too much, or are we going to, of course we are going to just tuck it in there. Come on. More is more. Yeah. Here we go. Almost everything in, just totally different color scheme, because this time I decided to make these look like wheat or any kind of grain and change the color palette. So almost done, just a teeny tiny last touches. So I picked up these couple of wooden beads that maybe I'll add, and then just a button. Buttons are really handy because you can find them in any color, and usually this kind of a round shape goes to any kind of composition. Then these ones in this one I made them a little bit darker using the watercolor, but in here I'm thinking I might even leave them, at least for now, for this lighter tone. I'm thinking I'm adding some color after the gesso has thoroughly dried to this ground bit to make it a little bit more, well, now it looks like there's snow on the ground rather than it's an autumn thing. Then the last detail, if I'm being correct, is just to add a little bit of word. These are really old Prima Marketing stickers that I used in here, Wild as the Wind, but Dreamer, Stronger, Lovely. Because now I'm thinking the white one might be better, or then just go with Brave. Love. Okay, now I'm just lingering. Let's use Stronger. Like so. And it is done. Gesso in several ways. Oh, actually, now I noticed something. I forgot to ink this edge. Let's do it now. So, gesso in a couple of ways. First, as adhesive and kind of breaking that strong pattern, making a perfect background to be added like different colors on top. Then I used gesso also to make dimensional pattern with a stencil, and then as adhesive with the frame again. Then boiled it here for another kind of texture and used it to harden the fabric to make it more dimensional. So just different uses for white gesso. And if you want to watch the original video where the inspiration came, there's a link to it in my blog post or the announcement post of this live. I will add it to the recording as well. Thank you so much for coming. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll be seeing you like in what month it is now, November. Then there's going to be 2 lives, one in Finnish and one in English. Thank you, Anne. Yeah, gesso is really versatile. My 2 go-to mediums for mixed media are gesso, white gesso. I love black one as well, but for example, in this first thing, you couldn't use black gesso as kind of a hindering of the strong pattern, because then it turns everything black. But still, yeah, but gesso and gel medium, heavy body gel medium, they are the 2 dynamic duo things. So hopefully you get new ideas, and don't hesitate to contact me if you want to clarify something or ask anything. Vielä nopeasti suomeksi, eli kiitoksia taas kovin. Jos jotain jäi kysymyksiä, niin ei muuta kuin laittakaa niitä chattiin, käy niitä läpi. Tosiaan gesso tällä kertaa eri tavoin käytössä, ja sitten marraskuussa on taas suomenkielinenkin live. So, thank you so much, and have a nice day or evening or afternoon, depending where you are. I'll just clean up a little bit, and especially clean the stencil, and then start going through the comments if I missed anything. So, thank you. Bye!